When the original Destiny came out, I was no stranger to the first-person shooter genre. Despite being 10 at the time, I had made the rounds, just coming off a Call of Duty bender and a distant stint with the Halo franchise. It was 2014, and I was ready to embark upon a new adventure. It has been 9 years since, and I am still walking down that same road. The Destiny franchise has been very influential to me, but after all this time, my collection of Destiny paraphernalia is lacking. Having acquired a baseline set of skills with 3D printing this past semester, I can create my own merchandise. So, in lieu of this discovery, I set out to print Destiny's most iconic character, what is called a ghost. Here's how that went. There are 3 stages to the 3D printing process. The first is creating a design, or downloading one from a website online. I grabbed my ghost model from Thingiverse. When downloading objects from Thingiverse, it is always important to keep an eye on the Creative Commons restrictions. Once you have picked something to print, you can put the model in a slicing software, depending on what 3D printer you are using. I used Cura, as I would be printing from an Ultimaker machine. Once the model is in a slicing software, you can adjust many parameters to change the quality and properties of the print. For example, you can decrease the layer height, which will result in a finer, more detailed model, at the cost of time and materials. This ghost shell needed something called support in order to print successfully. If you need to use supports, you'll have to remove them after the print. If you use PVA instead of the basic PLA material, you can put it in water, where the PVA will dissolve after some time. It is always recommended to use a brim on your model. This is to prevent thermal shock from warping the dimensions of your print after it has cooled. You can resize and reorient your model for optimal printing times and minimal material cost. Now we enter the second stage of the 3D printing process, actually printing the thing. This method of creation is also known as additive manufacturing. There are many kinds of additive manufacturing. The kind I use to create the ghost is filament-based and works by melting a plastic and extruding it layer by layer until it creates a pre-programmed object. Watch the printer for a while to make sure it actually starts. They can occasionally fail from the get-go. After waiting for the model to be completed, we have entered the third stage, post-processing. Here, you can do whatever you want. Generally, people sand down the model to give it a smoother feel. You should remove any supports if you use them, but beyond that, the world is your oyster. Go crazy. Make as many adjustments and alterations to your print as your imagination and time will allow. So, this is the ghost shell I created. I added a little bit of a wedge on top to allow it to be used as a keychain. If you can see it, you can see the rope, I imagine, to be used as a keychain. However, the base model is still Zap 13's. Once the model finished printing, there was minimal post-processing actually done to it. Of course, the supports were removed, and that is evidenced by the structures in the bottom here, which could be removed by actually smoothing it out. My main learnings when it came to printing this were mostly just putting what I had already learned into practice. There was some difficulty with actually getting it to print, as it took a few tries for the machine to get going properly. But once the machine decided to just start working, there were no more issues. It just worked according to plan. And that's how I made my first Destiny Ghost. I hope you enjoyed the video.